Commissioner Aguilera, are you ready to go?
Good morning. I am ready. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me?
We can. It's just not as loud as it could be.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better. Great. Good morning. This is Pat O'Connell calling to order the regular open meeting of the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission on Thursday, March 7th. It's just after 10 a.m. Mr. Cameron, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Aguilera,
Present.
Commissioner Ellison,
Present.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Present.
All commissioners are present and you have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So next up, we'll do Pledge of Allegiance and State Pledge. Okay, commissioners, we have an agenda that was posted on Monday. I have one request to change the agenda from OGC's office, which will be defer regular action transportation matter item number 3, which is a laundry list of case numbers, to the April 18th open meeting. So I'll propose that. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, in consideration that we that we got a revised draft order for one of the consent action items, 2340, which is number 4, I would propose that that go onto the regular agenda. That was a fairly last minute change with a lot of text added.
I do not have any additional changes to propose.
Okay, so I will move that we proceed with an agenda that edits what was posted by deferring transportation regular action item number 3 and moving consent action item utility matter number 4 to the regular agenda, and we can take that one after the one item that we had for utility matters on the regular agenda.
I second.
Great, thank you. I think roll please.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
The motion to approve the agenda with the 2 edits passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone registered for public comment?
Mr. Chair, we do not have anyone registered.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to give public comment? Okay, seeing none, move on to the announcements section. Office of General Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to mention a couple of upcoming items in the next few weeks for open meetings, and then a couple of special open meetings also. Next Thursday, we are going to have a special open meeting. The agenda hasn't been quite put together. It'll be noticed by Monday. And the 2 items that are likely to be heard at that meeting are 22-00178 UT and 22-003 309 UT. That's the SPS Grid Mod and the New Mexico Gas Company LNG. And then at our regular open meeting on March 21st, in addition to some regular agenda items, we'll be having a presentation at 1:30 from Southwestern Power Group. They're going to provide an update on the Rio Sol transmission line project. That was a request of theirs to come and present to us. And then there will likely be another special open meeting on March 28th to consider EPE's transportation electrification plan. And that'll be, once the agenda is put together for that, that'll be noticed also on the Monday before. So busy month we've got here in March.
Thank you. Then for my section on announcements, I've got a recitation I need to read, and then also just in addition to the open meetings that Mr. Cameron just highlighted, we've also got an evidentiary hearing starting. Shoot, the date written down. I think it's before the 21st meeting, but it's an evidentiary hearing in case 23-00353 UT. So that's the case. That's the PNM PPA and CCN application for several solar and battery storage projects. So if you're interested in that case, please go to our webpage and you'll find the date where the hearing begins, and also instructions on how to participate if you'd like to provide public comment. And the recitation is Wednesday, March 6th, 2024. Commission met in closed session, which was closed pursuant to NMSA 1978-10-15-1H3, deliberations by a public body in connection with an administrative adjudicatory proceeding. I affirm for the record that the matters discussed in the closed session were limited only to those specified in the notice and agenda for that meeting, specifically deliberations regarding the recommended decision issued on February 21st, 2024 in the matter of New Mexico Gas Company's application for issuance of a certificate of public convenience and necessity to construct a liquefied natural gas facility. That's case number 22-0039309 UT. Also, the final order that was issued on January 25th, 2024, and motion for rehearing in the matter of Southwestern Public Service Company's application for authorization to implement grid modernization components that include advanced metering infrastructure and recover the associated costs through a rider, issuance of related accounting orders, and other associated relief. That's case number 22-00178 UT. And finally, whether to approve EPE's amended advice notice number 285 or suspend the rate for an additional 3 months and set further proceedings on the matter. That is related to the matter of El Paso Electric Company's proposed changes to rate schedule number 16 pursuant to NMPRC rule 17.9.570 NMAC, which is determination of rates for purchases from qualifying facilities under advice notice number 285. And that's case number 23-00222 UT. And I affirm that no official or final actions were taken in that meeting. So Commissioner Ellison, do you have any other announcements?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Aguilera?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you. Then we also have a new employee starting that I guess I'll ask Ms. Corey to introduce, and he's got his song ready.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. John Kryenkamp, the newest of our hearing examiners. He started with us on Monday, and he comes to us after being general counsel for the state treasurer. John?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Crankamp. I just started. Today's my fourth day working for you. I don't really have too much to say other than how much I appreciate the opportunity to serve as one of your hearing examiners. Looking forward to getting a case hopefully soon and serving the public with all of you. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Great, thank you for that and delighted that you're here. We've been building I think, a really impressive staff and certainly you're a great addition to that. And so looking forward to working with you, and we have no shortage of cases.
Mr. Chair, if I might, I would also like to take an opportunity to say that's the last vacancy in our hearing examiners division. So now we are fully staffed there as well.
That's great news. Thank you. Okay, so in the vein of recognizing employees, new and existing, we have a announcement for Employee of the Month. So I have the honor of announcing our Employee of the Month for March 2024. New Mexico Public Regulation Commission hereby recognizes Jose Montano as NMPRC of Employee of the Month for March 2024. Mr. Montano serves as Financial Coordinator in the Budget and Finance Bureau of the ASD at the NMPRC. He's worked there for almost 2 years. He's nominated by Miranda Mascarenas, and in her nomination, she states that Jose's been with us for almost 2 years. During his time here, he's always been willing to help wherever he's needed, as well as ensuring his duties are completed in a timely manner. Always a pleasure to work with and always courteous and helpful when working with vendors and PRC staff. Jose is always willing to take on additional tasks when asked and always does it with a smile on his face. Always kind, professional, eager to learn new things. Jose is the point of contact for the PRC when processing W-9s and reconciling P-card. He's always clear and concise in his communication and ensures any outstanding items are completed in a timely manner when working with outside agencies. The PRC is fortunate to have such a dedicated and outstanding team member. I'll add to that just recognition that Jose works in this group that has had an extraordinarily successful 18 months. You know, we had a clean audit, and so that's a huge accomplishment. Jose is part of that group. And then we all saw the results of that group working together last open meeting with the budget presentation. So thank you, Jose, and thank you, Miranda, for bringing Jose forward so we can recognize contributions from within your group.
Thank you, Jose, and congratulations.
I believe there's like a title belt or something that goes to. So ask for that, Jose. All right, so next up on the agenda, we've got approval of prior meeting minutes. There's 2 sets of minutes in our package for today, February 8th, 2024 regular open meeting and February 15th special open meeting. Commissioners, do you have any changes or edits to those minutes?
Mr. Chair, I do not. I reviewed those and didn't see any issues.
I don't have any either. Thank you.
Okay, with that discussion, then I'll move that we approve the prior meeting minutes for February 8th and for February 15th.
My second.
Mr. Cameron?
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell. Mr. Chair, the motion to pass the 2 sets of minutes for February 18th and February 15th passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on to the consent action items. Just reminder that all we have are utility matters on consent action, and there are 3 cases that we'll be voting on for this. The item, they're listed items 1, 2, and 3 on the agenda that was posted. We will consider item 4 on the regular action agenda. So commissioners, did you have any discussion or changes or anything else that you'd like to talk about with the consent action agenda?
Nothing from me.
No, thank you, I do not.
Okay, so based on that, I will move that we adopt the potential orders contained in the consent action items.
Second,
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison,
I,
Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
The motion to approve the three items that are still on the consent agenda passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. So moving on to regular action items, we have a couple items on transportation matters. Again, we're gonna defer item 3 to future meeting, probably April 18th. But meanwhile, we have quick and easy record case, Ms. Stephans.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chairman. So before the commission today is an order dismissing investigation and closing the docket concerning the investigation of American Transportation and Quick and Easy records. I have prepared a short summary of the case, which I think is relevant to the proposed order and in this matter. Would you like for me to present that?
Yeah, please do.
Sure. So this came before the commission based on staff's petition for suspension of respondent operating authority, which came after receiving a Socorro Police Department incident report indicating that a vehicle with respondents decal was stopped and discovered to be carrying firearms and drugs. And the commission used its power under the Motor Carrier Act to immediately suspend the operating authority for concerns of public health and safety and sent the case to be an expedited hearing to be held on the case. And the hearing examiner issued a recommended decision, finding that there is no evidence that the respondents were involved in or knew about the illegal activities, but that there was concerning testimony regarding the elderly owner's capacity to run the business and the employees potentially failing to comply with the owner and commission directives. So the recommendation was that the commission allow respondents to continue to operate, but to require staff to perform an audit of respondents' records and make a recommendation regarding fines. While staff was conducting its audits, they submitted a status report indicating that the owner was placed under an emergency temporary guardianship and conservatorship, and that respondents had filed for voluntary cancellations of their operating authority, and staff further supplemented the record later stating that the guardianship and conservatorship had been made permanent and that respondents have stopped operations. So the order in front of the commission today dismisses the investigation, finding that since respondents' operating authorities have been canceled and since respondents have stopped operations, the commission does not need to continue any further investigations to ensure the preservation of a safe, sound, and adequate motor carrier system, and also finds that in this case, it is not in the public interest to impose fines against the respondent and its owner. And I stand for questions.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder of this case. Commissioners, do you have any questions or discussion on this item?
no, thank you, I do not.
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank Ms. Stephans for the memo that she put forward. I thought it was a very well-written memo, and I appreciated the logic that was explained in the analysis. So well done, and thank you for that memo.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I agree with that. I second that.
Yes, my best way to pile onto that is I moved for adoption of the potential adoption of the order regarding investigation recommended by Ms. Stephans in this case.
I second.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
The motion to approve the order as written passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you, and thank you. Next up is a transportation case, looking at, invalid and expired permits. Katie Lang from OGC's office. If you'll tell me what your walk-up song is, I can hum it. Probably.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Commissioner, Commissioners. This case is before the commission. It has to do with staff doing an investigation, I guess, cleanup of the lack of a better term, and discovering motor carriers who are suspected of still providing transportation services to the public under either invalid or expired permits. Staff listed, I think there was 27 total motor carriers on the list. The allegation is that per the rules and the statute, for a motor carrier to have an operation permit, they have to file the operating contracts with the commission, and these motor carriers, either we don't have a copy of their contracts or their permits have been reissued and we still don't have contracts on file. And this is a way to ensure that these motor carriers providing services to the public are in compliance with the commission rules and statutes. Staff is asking for a order to show cause to be issued as a chance for these motor carriers to contact us and state their case as to why they shouldn't be fined. In addition, they are also asking what they're calling a cease and desist, which is loose. I think it is mostly based on NMSA 78, section 65-2A-32A, which provides that after an investigation that a provision of the Motor Carrier Act or order or rule of the commission has been or is about to be violated, and may issue an order specifying the actual or proposed act or omissions to the act that constitute a violation and require the violation be discontinued, rectified, or prevented. At this point, I am recommending that we grant staff's petition, but I understand the commission might have questions and discussion about this.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions or discussion?
I have some comments that I would like to make here. Thank you for the presentation, and apologize that my comments might be a bit long here. There have been similar transportation petitions in the past where I have shared some concerns with the proposed approach, but I don't believe that my points have come across. So I wanted to take some time here to provide some guidance for future transportation petitions. So I'm going to vote no on this order because I find the petition to be deficient. The petition does not clearly explain why a cease and desist order is in the public interest for non-emergency medical transportation services. The petition provides no reason, in fact, why a cease and desist order is appropriate, simply requesting that the commission issue one, saying issue cease and desist orders commanding respondents to immediately cease and desist all unauthorized motor carrier operations pursuant to invalid and expired permits within the state of New Mexico. There's no precedent cited and no other explanation as to why this would be appropriate. I understand what the petition seeks to do, which is to shift the burden of proof to the motor carrier from the petition. However, the petition does not meet my standards for granting it. I issued a bench request seeking the necessary information to support the petition, and the responses to the bench request were honestly frustrating and, for some questions, dismissive. The petition listed some of the contracts, for example, as canceled or listed them as having a termination date. So I asked staff if these permits have already been canceled or terminated, please explain the purpose of issuing a cease and desist order and show cause for such permits. And staff responded that they believe that the expiration of the contracts and corresponding permits did not result in the termination of those services by the motor carriers. So I understand then that staff believe that these motor carriers are still providing the transportation service, but staff has provided no evidence or even explained why they believe this to be the case. In question 8 of the bench request, I asked staff to describe their efforts to aid the entities in coming into compliance with the commission's rules before filing the petition. Staff responded that it is not feasible for the motor carriers listed on the petition to come into compliance retroactively. My question was not about retroactivity, and I do not believe that staff answered my question. My point is that some contracts have not been filed with the commission in this instance, and some of them expired as early as 2013, 2014. So my question is, what efforts did staff undertake to have any new updated contracts filed with the commission? Why are we sitting here 10 or 7 years later threatening penalties when we failed to do our due diligence for that long? As with most other cases we process, this is about the public interest. And so I want to talk about what that means to me in this context. In question 9, I asked staff for motor carriers providing non-emergency medical services that staff believes are operational, please describe staff's view of how the public interest is better served by directing the motor carriers to cease operations rather than help them come into compliance without a cease and desist directive and show cause order. And staff said that, well, they responded, please refer to staff's response to number 8 above. Staff believe that compliance with the law best serves the public interest. So I already established that the response to question 8 did not answer my question. So focusing on the second part of the response, which is that compliance with the law best serves the public interest, that sounds good, but let's talk about what that means practically. In this case, compliance with the law means filing with the commission the updated contract that underlies the motor carrier's non-emergency medical transportation services. So filing the current contract. I disagree with this response. These transportation services take patients to their medical appointments and their dialysis appointments. If they are still operating, these motor carriers also still have employees and customers who depend on them. And yes, the motor carriers failed to file their most current contracts, and it is correct that it is incumbent upon the motor carrier to keep their record updated with the commission. But this is a solvable problem. If a contract is missing on file, we should have a process in place to identify that problem and reach out to the motor carriers to correct it. And I don't see any real evidence of that in this petition. And I'm afraid that I have to disagree that issuing a cease and desist order is warranted here. In my view, the public interest is on the side of getting people to their medical appointments and obtaining the missing contracts. before taking formal action or threatening penalties, especially when we have failed to ensure that the motor carriers remain compliant with our rules for so many years. So on page 2 of the response, staff says, to further clarify, the petition does not seek to now find or to file any of the missing contracts. Instead, the petition seeks cease and desist orders for those motor carriers operating in Mexico, absent the requisite authority from the commission. And I understand this is what the petition is saying. This is exactly where I differ on the approach and why I'll vote to not approve the petition. I don't see this as a black and white check the box process. I believe that we will be a better agency and better serve the public interest if we are more organized and proactive and we catch the problems before they start. If we had a process that identified contracts that are expiring and we reached out to the motor carriers to let them know and help them file those contracts, we wouldn't have motor carriers that have been operating without authority for 10 or 7 years. And so I do want to provide some guidance, as I said initially, because I want to be clear as to what I am looking for. One of the things I'm considering, whether I am threatening somebody with penalties or wanting to issue a show cause order, is whether there has been violations in the past. There's no indication here that there's been rampant violations here. It seems more likely that some clerk at a company forgot to update their contract. The other thing I'm looking for is, what work has staff done before filing the petition to help the motor carriers come into compliance? Again, not retroactively, I'm talking about prospectively. And I'm looking for support as to, why a cease and desist. We've gotten several petitions that propose different types of remedies, and it's not clear to me. I think I can try to figure it out, but the petition is not giving me the information that I need to know that this is something that we've done in the past. This is something where we're treating motor carriers consistently and not unduly discriminating against anyone. So I need more information in these petitions. Otherwise, I will continue to find them deficient. And again, sorry for being so long-winded, but I want to make sure that my point comes across.
Well, thank you for that. That was clear and direct. I don't have any questions based on it. Do you have any questions or discussion, Commissioner Ellison?
Well, I might like to ask a few questions of Ms. Lang. So these carriers are, I know there's a separate issue for carriers who have not filed their annual reports.
Correct.
And so this is a different different issue. And the issue here is that the carriers do not currently have on file their current contracts.
Which means that as a result, the permits they've had are either expired, or because of expired, they've become invalid. So they're holding invalid permits from the PRC.
And what's the practical result of not having a current contract on file with us, that we don't know the prices? Or
I'm not sure about the prices, but we don't know the ins and outs of the services that they're providing to the public.
Because the rates would have been set, correct? So there's no question about what the rates are. Right. It's some of the details of their services that are in question. And staff states that they attempted to contract these carriers telephonically as well as issued letters, is that
Yes,
correct?
that is correct.
And is it clear how many of these companies may not be in existence now?
Staff have indicated that they suspect at least one or maybe up to three are not, maybe not operational as is, and that's perhaps why they haven't responded to our contacting them. So this is a way
That's not many though, out
No,
of
it's
this
not.
list.
But of course, we don't really know either because these are the people that didn't get back to us.
You know, I do understand that our transportation division staff are transitioning to the state DOT mid-year, and they'd like to go with clean books. Is that a fair
I think that's a fair,
statement?
yes, I would agree.
You know, I'd like to ask Commissioner Aguilera if you have an alternative approach that you'd recommend, or if you don't think this should be done, period.
Well, so that information that staff contacted them came out of the bench request. They did not explain that in the petition. And I think you're right. The point is that we want to hand over a clean slate to the transportation division. And that is why my focus would be on reaching out to them and having them file the contracts rather than telling them that we're going to penalize them. I don't see how that part achieves the purpose of giving the Department of Transportation a good record.
But isn't staff saying here that they did attempt to contact these companies and were not successful?
That is what they responded, yes, that they attempted. There are no other details. I asked for details about the date and sort of methods, and they provided that one general statement. So I can't answer anything further with respect to that.
Well, there seems to be no statutory deadline on this particular matter. Would it help to table this until our next open meeting? Would that allow for some
I think that would be fine. And the one thing that we did in the past, which to me makes more sense, is to issue a notice of intent to revoke and mail it to them, and give them time to respond formally at this point. And if they don't respond, then we can revoke or whatever the proper phrasing is, cancel, terminate, revoke the authority for those. But I just don't see the point in threatening penalties or requiring a show cause and have a lengthy proceeding here, especially as I said, when we haven't been keeping track for so long. So I think the focus should be on either getting the contracts or terminating whatever authority there is. And I don't think we need to, meddle with everything in the middle about trying to shift the burden and show cause. And I think there's a cleaner way to do it.
Well, I would certainly be in support of, tabling this matter and allowing for additional time to have an alternative approach. If that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think there is a problem here that needs to be corrected, but again, I think it's solvable and there are simpler ways. I move to table this item.
I second.
Thank you for that discussion and conversation and I also appreciate the alternate solution, because if we were just gonna vote on this order granting staff's petition, I would have voted with Commissioner Aguilera at this point. I think maybe we get to the better spot faster by taking this approach, so I appreciate that. So, is there any other discussion on the motion to table? Are we ready to vote? I think we're ready to vote, Mr. Cameron.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
The motion to table this matter passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to utility matters. The first item on regular agenda is case number 23-00138 UT. That's PNM's energy efficiency plan. We've got a presentation from Mr. Martinez.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So this matter concerns PNM's application for approval of its most recent energy efficiency and load management plan, as well as related profit incentives and tariff revisions. The recommended decision in this case approved this application with minor modifications. What's before the Commission today is a pair of orders, both of which would approve the recommended decision and provide some additional clarity about PNM's compliance with a legacy requirement concerning demand response resources. So what I thought I'd do, unless the Commission has now, is just briefly summarize the demand response issue, how the recommended decision addresses it, and how this pair of final orders would implement the recommended decision.
Yeah, that sounds like a great plan. Please proceed.
All right, so before getting into the specifics of the demand response issue, I'll just observe as a general matter that there was relatively limited disagreement in this case about whether the Commission should approve the energy efficiency and load management plan generally. There was some degree of debate over this specific issue. So the parties to this case disputed whether PNM had complied with the Commission's final order in 2218 UT, which required PNM to issue an RFP for demand response resources. I'm not going to summarize it in full, but there's a complex history to this requirement that spans multiple dockets, starting from the Commission's San Juan replacement resources docket. So the way that the recommended decision handled this issue was by concluding that PNM had not complied with this requirement from 2218, and it resolved the compliance issue by ordering that PNM issue another RFP for demand response resources in its pending IRP docket. So PNM didn't accept to this resolution. Instead, it sought additional clarity on how the Commission wanted PNM to implement it, which either of these final orders would provide. The bulk of both of these final orders, in fact, is providing instructions to PNM for how it should incorporate the Commission's order, in this case, into the IRP docket with minimal disruptions to that pending IRP docket. So for those reasons, I would recommend that the Commission adopt either of these proposed orders, and I understand Commissioner Ellison is going to discuss some of the revisions he incorporated into the second order.
Commissioner Ellison.
Sure. Thank you. A few things. One minor detail. the numbering of the paragraphs seems a bit off. I'm gonna blame it on Word since I don't like Word, and it's easy to have sort of embedded characters and things in Word. So it goes from paragraph 9 to paragraph 1 in these things. I think it's a word problem. I guess in general, my thinking about this case is that in case 2218, the commission did say that P&M shall undertake another RFP for demand response once P&M's approved energy efficiency plan has ended for implementation effective January 1st, 2024. I think, that could have been more clear. In my view, however, just doing the same RFP for the energy efficiency plan, which included DR demand response, does not really qualify, or in my view, does not really count as fulfilling this. I really read this as a requirement to do an RFP for additional demand response resources. And I think, although that language implies that it might be part of the energy efficiency plan, I do not think it has to be. And I think some other language in 2218 indicates that it doesn't have to be. And in fact, there are some problems with asking for another 24 megawatts of demand response within the Energy Efficiency Act plan, because we know that anything in an Energy Efficiency Act plan is going to be subject to a cost test, this UCT cost test, and could crowd out other energy efficiency programs. And I don't think that was the intent. I think the intent was to do an RFP for an additional 24 megawatts, really as a San Juan replacement resource, which was the original decision back in case 19-195. And so, there was some editing of what I had uploaded, but I think the crux of the matter is that I felt that it would make the order more clear if we explicitly asked for a new RFP for the 24 megawatts of demand response, which was part of that San Juan replacement portfolio, and that we would not be simply insisting that be done. We would be insisting that the RFP be done, but whether P&M actually acquired the 24 megawatts of DR would obviously depend on the pricing they got from that. And they could choose to do it as part of the an Energy Efficiency Act plan in the future, or by modifying the 2024 one at some future date, or it could simply be as part of a new rate case. And so whether was implemented would depend on the pricing, but I think it would be helpful to clarify that, we would like to see the 24 megawatt demand response program. We'd like to see an RFP for that.
And commissioners, could I just interject to clarify one point of difference between the two orders? So in either order, the initial proposed order or the revisions, neither of those orders limits cost recovery of a demand resource that might be procured as a result of this RFP to the energy efficiency framework. In other words, if there is a demand response resource procured as a result of this ordered RFP, under either order, PNM could seek cost recovery through the energy efficiency framework or through other means allowed by law, for instance, through a general rate case. So that is not a point of distinction between the two orders. I think the principal distinction is the revised order incorporates specific language discussing the 24 megawatt requirement from 19195, the San Juan replacement resource docket.
Yeah, thank you for those. And then I'm responsible for the edits that took half of your edits and removed the other half. And I'll explain that why. First of all, I agree with everything you said. But one of just my history with this 24 megawatt demand response, the reason it failed is it's overspecified. And so by insisting, calling it the 24 megawatt demand response in the ordering paragraph section and in the compliance and interaction section, my fear is what we're telling PNM to do is do the same thing you did wrong. So that's why I would like to just scrub out the specificity of 24 megawatt demand response program included in CCE1 from the back half of that order. And then there's two reasons for that. One, it failed because it was overspecified. The demand response RFP required demand response to be the same as a gas peaking plant that operates at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a hot summer day. That's not demand response. That's a supply resource. So first of all, they overspecified it to be give me demand response that is a supply side resource. And then the next problem is this requirement stems from 2019. It was actually from an earlier concept, which was how do we replace San Juan? So that the focus was on, again, summer afternoon peak. With everything that's happened since then, quite a bit of storage has come online. PNM has reevaluated when its greatest capacity risks are, and it's no longer 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a hot summer day. On a hot summer day, it shifts to later, say 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And then what the modeling now shows is they also need to be concerned about situations year round. So that opens up a whole new bucket of potential demand response in form of lighting. Refrigerator controls is not the bread and butter for this anymore. It could be lighting, it could be hot water heating, it could be industrial uses that weren't allowed in from their previous attempts. So if the choice is accept all of your edits or accept the order proposed by Mr. Martinez, I have to go with the order proposed by Mr. Martinez because this is overspecified and sends a dangerous message, I think.
Well, I guess my feeling from the history of this case is that in 19195, PNM was asked to file a proposal for 24 megawatts of DR. It was very specific. They came back with a proposal for 15. it was rejected by the commission. However, they obviously came back with a proposal. And in 2218, they were asked to do another RFP for demand response. And I think the only way to read that is some additional demand response resource above what they would normally be doing. And so I'm just not convinced that doing the same RFP for the energy efficiency program really counts as issuing the RFP for additional demand response resources. I can see how one might argue that it does, but I'm just not convinced that it does. And what I'm concerned about is if we don't specify a number here, that we'll have an unclear message that we want PNM to do a demand response RFP, but we're not giving any guidance around the quantity.
And I guess I hear you and I agree. And so what I think needs to be added maybe is incremental demand response or above and beyond what happens in your energy efficiency plan. But it's absolutely dangerous to put a number in there, because which of the 8760 hours of the year are we going to pick that number for? It's a different number depending on time of day, season of the year, situation. So putting a number in there becomes the thing that whatever they bring forward gets compared to. And there's no way to have the right number there unless you want to put in 8,760 numbers.
So what you're saying is that all demand response is not equal, that a megawatt of demand response could be something drastically different depending on the characteristics of that resource.
Characteristics and the value is different throughout the year. So 1 megawatt absolutely might be more valuable on a cold winter morning now than 1 megawatt at 4 o'clock on a hot summer afternoon. So that's what is wrong, I think, with including a number as a target here.
Well, I certainly would agree that this is a fairly old issue and that there have been a lot of changes. We recently approved a couple of 6 megawatt distribution scale batteries for PNM. So, that's an additional 12 megawatts that wasn't contemplated by the San Juan replacement resource decision. I guess, again, my concern is that we asked for this incremental distributed resource RFP. In my view, that hasn't happened. I'm willing to agree to not insist on the 24 megawatts being in there. I do think the version that I uploaded and as you've amended has some additional clarification around not needing to be inside of a energy efficiency plan.
Alejandro, can you please clarify for me which version was the one that was amended and then further revised? Is that on Board Effect?
Yes, Commissioner. So there currently are two versions on Board Effects. One, I believe, is dated with my initials, and then the other one is, I believe, initial JA revisions. And that has Commissioner Ellison's proposed revisions, as well as Commissioner O'Connell's revisions to those revisions. And just to clarify again, a point on the similarities between both orders. So both orders would not limit cost recovery or the proposal of this demand response program to the energy efficiency matter. And I'm just going to read paragraph 23 from the initial order. This is just quoted language. As a general matter, however, PNM may seek cost recovery through any method allowed by law or commission rules. In other words, PNM may seek recovery for an incremental demand response resource procured via the ordered RFP outside its energy efficiency and load management dockets. This would include potential recovery through a general rate case. So again, the distinction between the two orders is not limitations on how PNM can seek recovery. It's the specificity of the megawatt requirement.
I apologize for the confusion, Commissioner Aguilera. It's not only did Commissioner Ellison have a problem with Word, I've got a problem with Board Effect, right? So I didn't know how to communicate those things without, so there's a red line, if you go to Board Effect and look at the redlined version, you can see the differences, I think, between, well, maybe not, I don't know. And then just as another point of clarification on version control here, Mr. Martinez, we'd had an initial draft and then it looked like there was some edits to paragraph 14 in the cost recovery section and edit 16 in the cost recovery section. And that shows up as a red line on Commissioner Ellison's version, and it shows up as just text on the version we had in our book that was printed off of Board Effect. So just for clarity, I think that's what Commissioner Ellison was saying, that he wants to preserve no matter what happens. I agree with that. So I guess, and I'm not sure if you're able to keep up with this at home, Commissioner Aguilera, but if this is confusing, we can walk back through it. But I'm going to move that we adopt the final order in this case using Commissioner Ellison's version with two edits. So just delete the 24 megawatt demand response program included in CCAE 1 from the first paragraph of the compliance and interaction with pending IRP section, and make similar deletion in the it is therefore ordered section, item B. With those two changes, every other red line that's on Commissioner Ellison's draft is included in the motion.
Can you repeat those, Mr. Chair?
Right. So we're starting with what we've referred to as Commissioner Ellison's red line. And so there are additions to your proposal in the discussion section, paragraph 9. Then there's an addition that I'm proposing to delete in the compliance and interaction section on the wonky numbered version. I have total sympathy for you on that, by the way. Is paragraph 5, not accept the red line there. Your additions in the cost recovery and effect section, they show up as red lines on Commissioner Ellison's version, but we want to keep those. And then the last change on the Commissioner Ellison red line version is it's therefore ordered section. ordering paragraph B. Again, just don't accept that addition.
I follow all of those except for the one that has the to develop and implement the 24 MW demand response program. Would you delete that entire sentence, or is it a part of that sentence that you would propose to delete?
Now you lost me. Which section are you in? Compliance and interaction or therefore ordered?
I'm in the discussion section, so there's paragraph 9. And so it's toward the end of that paragraph. And then the next paragraph is paragraph 1, which is where the.
Okay, yeah, I thought leave that in because it does provide more specificity and clarity in the history of what happened. So that's why I saw that as a valuable addition. Because it refers to case number 19-00195 UT, not what we're asking PNM to do going forward.
Okay.
And then to clarify, so in section 1, compliance and interaction with pending IRP, do not incorporate those revisions.
Well, those gets, yes, in that section.
Okay, so it would read, PNM shall fulfill the requirements of docket number 2218 in ordering paragraph C of the recommended decision as incorporated by this final order by filing in the pending IRP docket an IRP for new incremental based on.
For a new incremental demand response program
Yeah,
based on all available utility demand response resources.
yeah, I agree with that. And then, okay,
So
this,
yes, incorporate those edits then.
what Commissioner Ellison just
Okay,
said, so
okay.
incremental demand response program,
Mhm.
Right,
what it'll say.
We dropped the 24 megawatts and the CCAE1 reference there.
Okay,
It also looks like this reference to ordering paragraph C should be ordering paragraph B.
so ordering paragraph C refers to the ordering paragraph from the recommended decision.
Of
Okay.
2218.
Of
Of
this
this
current
one,
document.
this one. Okay, sorry.
This case.
Okay.
And then in the version that I'm looking at with Commissioner Ellison's revisions, I don't see any red lines.
Right, that's the confusion I
Okay.
created.
So no, leave that as is.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it reads as Commissioner Ellison read it. And then the other place where it can get confusing would be then on ordering paragraph B.
And there, in the version that I'm looking at, there are no revisions, so leave that as is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's fun that we've been dealing with document control now for what, a year? Thank goodness.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens, and I guess I can't put too much on our hoped for technology upgrade, but that's the kind of thing I'm hoping that we can improve on going forward. Okay, so just to summarize where we're at, we've got a motion on the floor for adopting an edited version of Commissioner Ellison's proposed final order. Do we have a second?
Second. I second.
Okay, so if we didn't have a second, we do now. Commissioner Aguilera, have you been able to keep up with us through that?
Surprisingly, yes.
Awesome. Any questions, discussion before we vote? Okay, so seeing none, can we vote?
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
The motion to approve Commissioner Ellison's version of the final order with the 2 edits explained in semi-excruciating detail passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, we didn't want this meeting to be too short. Okay, so next item, and I haven't seen if he's here, is Mr. Fisk available? Here we go. Okay, so now we're talking about case number 23-00040 UT. That was pulled from consent because there were edits created too late for consideration.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. So as I noted in my email last night, the edits don't change the outcome that was in the original proposed order, which is recommending granting the amended petition by EPE. It's a petition for a variance only from the minimum load screen requirements of the amended interconnection rule for EPE. They've asked for an extension from the December 23rd, December 31st, 2023 deadline, which was already like a very extended deadline that I think was for all the utilities. And they want until December 31st, 2025, which is obviously about 2 years. The commission previously had an EPE petition before it that requested a 3-year variance from from these requirements, which is consistent in terms of timing because that was filed in February. So it would end up with about the same, deadline. They're looking at the same timescale to come into compliance as it were then, but that was denied because EPE didn't provide enough support. They didn't go through the subsection or section 30 of the interconnection rule to, meet all of the requirements, explain why they needed this variance and what would happen if they didn't get it, et cetera. This time they have, and they provided more information about specifically what they need to do, what they need to order. They have some percentage of their, I think about 20% of their distribution circuits are compliant, but 68%, I don't know how that adds up, but those are about 68% need to be upgraded and they need to order equipment for that. And so I think they've made a better case for it. I have consulted with Arthur O'Donnell, as he really is the expert on interconnection requirements, how long things should take. And he was willing to go with a full 2-year grant. This in the findings and conclusions, the commission would, on paragraph 9, the commission would state, given that their EP is getting this long variance, the commission expects EP will be fully compliant by that date. It's not preventing EPE from asking for a further extension, but it's sort of a warning that, they're getting a very generous variance here. And then one of the revisions of the order provides some further elaboration because EPE also asked for, as part of the same sections of the rule, a variance from the method to calculate minimum load data. That goes along with, that's necessary when you have non-compliant circuits because you're not collecting the actual information. They proposed 20% of maximum load as the minimum to apply. Their EPA is okay with that, or with the 15%, that's already 15% of maximum would be considered the minimum load. And in the rule allows for 15%. And they say, based on their actual review of their compliant circuits, the minimum load is actually about 20% of maximum load. So this would go with that data because it's actual EPE data. Let's see, anything else. I guess with that, I'll take any questions.
So my big question is there a statutory deadline on this?
Mr. Chairman, no, there's not.
Because knowing two things, this came in late. And the second is we've got a meeting scheduled for next week. If we table this to next week to give everybody a chance to sit with this a bit, what are their consequences?
There wouldn't be any. The commission can definitely consider this at a future open meeting.
Okay. I appreciate your discussion and, you know, I'd been working with you and Mr. O'Donnell as you two were working on this, but I also, if this had come to me without me having worked with you two on this, I wouldn't want to vote on it right now. So I'm going to move to table this item to a future open meeting.
I second.
Anybody have any questions or further explanation from Mr. Fisk while we have him? You also obviously have access to him till this shows up at the next meeting.
Yeah, I would like to ask about the addition of the new language. Was this inserted for clarity, or, you know, could you just talk about why you felt that this additional language was needed?
Yes, Commissioner Ellison. I realized that I hadn't provided enough detail on the second question, especially about choosing which alternative they could use to calculate. I should have included that in my initial version. So that's a big part of that. Again, EPE said they were okay with using either type of calculation during the variance period. I just wanted to note that EPE previously committed to providing status updates every 6 months, and they'll continue to do that. So to let you know that we will be receiving status updates.
Thank you. Commissioner Aguilera, any questions or discussion before we vote?
No, none for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like they're ready.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
The motion to table this matter to a future open meeting passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fisk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Okay. So that gets us through our regular action items. Next up is a discussion. So it's a presentation from Mr. Montoya from Pipeline Safety on the titles of 2023 end of year natural gas and hazardous liquid progress reports. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Montoya. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm gonna share my screen here. But with that, I don't know if the general public's ready for my walk-up song.
Well, I probably couldn't hum it if it's.
Mr. Chairman and others, I hope you can see the progress report there presented on the screen. Before I continue, I need to pause and really take a moment and appreciate all the work that the Pipeline Safety Bureau staff has done. Not only in 2023, we got started off on the right foot in 2024 and previous years. It's all the work that they actually do that allows me to present and publish such a great report. And as you all are aware, in our PRC annual reports, we highlight the grades, if you will, that PHMSA has awarded the Pipeline Safety Bureau, which in all reality, that's required to maximize the amount of federal funding that we are eligible for and actually receive. So this is 50% of the total calculation that contributes to determine how much money we get annually. And so I definitely needed to recognize them because those are the boots on the ground. You don't see them very often or at all because they are out in the field visiting with operators, responding to informal, formal complaints, conducting audits, inspections, investigations, etc. I shared, I believe you will have a copy of each of the 2023 natural gas and hazardous liquid progress reports that were recently submitted to PHMSA. Those are currently being reviewed by PHMSA. And I don't know that I'm going to spend a lot of time on every attachment. If you could imagine, if you didn't want a short meeting, we could be here forever, honestly. But I'm going to specifically focus on attachments 1, 2, 4, and 7. And if you wanted me to circle back to any other, I'd be happy to do so. So attachment 1 in both the natural gas, and by the way, I'm going to present the natural gas report on the screen. Obviously, the hazardous liquid report is identical in format. And if we need to go back and forth, I can definitely jump from screen to screen. But most of our program focuses around gas distribution, transmission, and gathering. And so this is where the bulk of the work is actually done out in the field. This is a summary, which currently on attachment 1 is basically a summary of the operators that are currently subject to federal and state Pipeline Safety Act regulations. And on the left-hand side, you can see the operator type. Oh, I think I have liquid on there. Sorry, I misspoke. Let me get back to the gas one. Here we go. Sorry about that. This is the gas. So on the left-hand side, you can see the operator type is basically broken down, and there's been a lot of discussion about LNG. We've never had LNG in the state of New Mexico, therefore it's not on our radar. And we would have jurisdiction as an intrastate agent that we enter a contract with PHMSA annually. And so by default, because we've adopted and incorporated parts 190, for the most part, 190 through 199 in rule, that allows us to basically act as an extension of PHMSA and obviously a partner of the federal agency. And the one component that I want to bring to your attention on attachment 1 is there at the bottom, gathering lines. You've heard gathering on several occasions, especially during the legislative session and the FY25 operating budget request submittal. Our numbers are significantly low on the percentage of inspections being conducted. Of that 32, we inherited 22 new operators as part of that new gathering program. My goal with the additional staff that we are hopefully soon to be awarded and will begin to start the hiring process for will contribute to that percentage. My goal is to try to get that up around 60% annually, especially with it being a new program. We're obviously going to have to do probably a lot of hand holding and introducing the new operators to regulation that it's never been applicable to them or their operations in the past. So that's the key takeaway for me when I was able to prepare this document and submitted it to PHMSA. Attachment 2 is the work that actually was done out in the field. The definition of a field inspection day is when inspectors are participating in an actual inspection, whether it be remote, whether it be reviewing the operation and maintenance program or whatever plan that is on file and on record with the PRC Pipeline Safety Bureau prior to actually deploying to the site to conduct the records and the field portions of an actual inspection. We had a total of 682 reported field inspection days, and I think our goal was around 540. So we obviously accomplished that. We'll check the box with PHMSA, we'll get credit for it and move on to 2024. The total count of drug and alcohol inspections that were conducted in 2023 is quantified in this attachment, and it's 9, but it also gets embedded into the standard comprehensive column on our inspection person days, just for the purposes of the formatting here. I'm not going to spend a whole lot. Attachment 3 has a boatload of pages. This is every operator in the state of New Mexico that has intrastate facilities, whether it be distribution, transmission, LNG, or other. And so if you ever were curious, do we have jurisdiction? Attachment 3 is where you're going to want to go. Moving on to attachment 4. See, there's quite a few. As you know, the bulk of those operators on that list are what we refer to as master meters, which are your mobile home parks, trailer parks, universities, schools, campuses, things of that nature. Something that I really pay and give a lot of attention to during the calendar year are reportable incidents and accidents. By definition, incidents related to natural gas, accidents is related to hazardous liquids. So if you ever hear that terminology, some people tend to use it interchangeably, but I try to stick to the script, and an incident is gas, accident is liquid. So what I'm currently projecting here on the screen is the summary of reportable incidents that we conducted an investigation of, which you all are familiar with, the Albuquerque one, which is also on here. So just using that one as an example here at the bottom, I believe, Albuquerque, so just to give you an idea of what is summarized here. So I presented on that case recently, but you can kind of see a lot of these meet the minimum thresholds of being federally reportable. We, as a group and team, gather the information that is available to us at the time of the report and determine on how critical it might be and what kind of priority it is before we actually make a decision to deploy and conduct an investigation immediately. So as you are aware, we are on call 24/7 for this purpose and respond to, and yes, we have to answer our call. And so we have to answer our phones 24/7. So that's what this summary is. I guess I probably should pause after each attachment, Chair, or unless you want me to finish and then wait till the end. Please interrupt as needed.
I appreciate the pace you're taking this at.
Okay.
Sounds like you have a full.
I don't, unfortunately, I don't have a complete version of this.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nelson, I'll email you a complete version of both the hazardous liquid and natural gas reports that I'm currently going over. I failed to mention attachment 5, and the only reason I want to bring this to your attention is I'm working with our staff and have committed to the agency to get the number of carryover notice of probable violation number, which is currently projected, or is currently 337, down to and managed around 100. It's going to require a lot of work on behalf of staff, but I am comfortable with that performance measure and being successful in achieving that goal. I think it's going to take us a good 2 to 3 years to get there, because there's a lot of follow-up work and hand-holding with the operators to implement some type of corrective action plan. But that's what I wanted to bring to your attention here. So it's a very important attachment, and I have real-time stats that in the future, Chairman, Commissioners, I'm going to be presenting to you all quarterly, so you don't have to take 12 months into try to absorb it all into one presentation. So I'll be doing an update, a status update report to you all quarterly moving forward.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because I mean, just the cover sheet of this report, it's a DOT report, and it looks like it's available online if somebody was interested. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. These are public records.
Thank you.
Here's a summary of the staff. So most of them, you might have met a few, myself included, and the rest of the PSB staff members are listed here. How much time they actually spent in the program, how many months they've been with us during 2023. You can see who we hired, obviously, because they don't have the number 12 in that column, and then where they're currently qualified for. I have to be excited about mentioning to you, there's a very robust training program that is eligible for federal funding, and it's actually required in order for you to be qualified as a lead inspector in all of the specialized audits that we do. That is in Oklahoma City primarily, and it is only eligible to federal and state inspectors. So it's instructor led. There's a pre and post test. You're in a classroom setting for about 5 days for every class. When I got hired, I think since then I've probably spent a good 26, 27 weeks in Oklahoma City for all of that training to get up to the highest level of one for that lead inspector position. So it takes time. And so where I'm going with that is it's very important that we really focus a lot on retention because I think we can, if we're aggressive in our training program, they're qualified within 3 years easily. And then if I can get if I can get some more miles out of them right after the investment is made, but they become so valuable to maybe I shouldn't say this on record, but they become so valuable to our competitors who is, the operations. So. And number 8 is just a summary of how we incorporate the rules. As a new regulation gets adopted by Congress, it is by default that I can add adopted over here to the right of the screen because we've already incorporated that rule by reference in the PRC rules. So there's no need for a rulemaking when new regulations come. If 190, Part 192, 49 CFR Part 192 changes, we change by default. So one item that will likely need our attention, and I've already mentioned this to the chief of staff as well, is increasing our civil penalty threshold. We're currently at 100,000, not to exceed $1 million. However, the federal government is reconsidering that to be considered substantially the same as their civil penalty amounts. And so I think the best approach might be just to incorporate the federal regulation in the statute. They would never have to go back to the legislature and get it approved every 2 or 3 years. So there might be a way around, just a suggestion there. Let's see here. And then again, this is the last attachment 10. Attachment 9 is reserved. Attachment 10 is just a summary. It's a write-up that staff and I put together, outlining our performance. So that concludes the natural gas portion of the report. I can go over to the liquid, but it's essentially the same format and information that's being provided to PHMSA, to you commissioners, to PRC and the public. And I'll stand for questions.
Well, thank you for providing the report. I mean, this is really interesting, valuable information, and also thank you for highlighting your staff. Pleasure to meet a few of them yesterday. You guys are out in the field, so I can't say I've connected with everybody that's in the building, but definitely not with your team. So that was a great opportunity. And so again, thank you for the report. Is kind of my summary where I'm at. Commissioner Elson or Commissioner Aguilera, do you got any questions or comments?
Thank you for the report, Mr. Montoya. I just wanted to ask, and maybe you can make a pitch when the posting for the engineers that you intend to hire will be posted.
We, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Aguilera, that we are meeting next week to start that process. And I think we need to initially identify what the job descriptions are going to be, what the job titles will be per SPO rules, and then prepare a job order. Our goal is to have all of those positions, and correct me if I'm wrong, but our goal is to have all of those positions filled, ready to rock and roll July 1. So we have a lot of work between now and then because we're recruiting 10. And that's a combination of admin, damage prevention, and pipeline safety inspectors. So if anybody knows of anybody, P&M, gas company.
Yeah, and are those 10 statewide, or is there a particular locations you're looking for?
Mr. Chairman, great question. I appreciate it. Thanks for bringing that up. We definitely have a need for the San Juan and Permian basins to have a physical presence there, in my opinion. So I believe it's in our best interest to hire at least 2 in both of those quadrants. We have 0. And so we're having to commute quite a bit. And so I think our travel costs could decrease. We can invest it in other training or, other opportunities, and they could do day trips. And so that definitely something that I've taken note of. And then the administrative individuals, obviously they can assist the program from wherever. But as far as our workforce, I think we definitely need to recruit from the territories of where all these gathering pipelines exist that we've inherited, which is San Juan and Permian, mostly Permian. Yes, sir.
Just a couple questions, Mr. Montoya. I noticed on both of these, on the liquid and the gas, you have, say on the liquids, you've got 3 operators for the refined petroleum products, and 2 of them were inspected. Do you have a schedule by which you're inspecting them? You're not attempting to inspect all of them in any given year, is that correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, our maximum frequency is 5 years. We have a high-risk policy that we calculate those units that may pose a higher risk to the general public, and we'll conduct inspections more frequently, around 3 years. So for example, New Mexico Gas Company, their units, which are Santa Fe, for example, Albuquerque Metropolitan's one inspection unit, we actually conduct those on a 3-year frequency level. So we have a ongoing inspection plan that we distribute to staff at the beginning of the year, so they have no surprises and are aware of what their obligation is for that whole calendar year. So if Inspector A gets 10 inspections assigned to them in January, they have to complete them prior to December 31st. But it's a frequency per our grant obligations, maximum of 5-year intervals.
And here where you've reported that an operator has been inspected, does that imply a comprehensive inspection of all of their pipelines, or could it be a certain percentage of their pipelines?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, like any audit, is obviously a percentage of the number of miles. There are some operators that have 1.5 regulated intrastate miles. And so we're probably going to be looking at 100% of that pipeline. Now, obviously, most of them are underground, so it's not anything that we can visually inspect. So we look at records. We spend a lot of time on records because, well, we tend to get told what we want to hear, but we have to trust but verify via record. And then the third component of a standard comprehensive audit includes field observations to determine if the people that are actually manipulating the valve, checking the regulator stations, ensuring cathodic protection is adequate, are qualified. And it's our obligation to ensure compliance, that they know how to do those covered tasks. On my screen now, I have a breakdown of what type of inspection it might have been. So we get credit if we do a standard comprehensive audit. We get credit if we do a public awareness audit. So that one might be any type of inspection. It not necessarily says I did a standard comprehensive audit or did 100%. It just says I visited this operator this year. Whether if I did a drug and alcohol inspection or operator qualification inspection, whatever it might have been, that's on another document that we present during the annual program evaluation that PHMSA comes out and does annually.
Great, thank you. I appreciate you and your team's work on this.
Thank you.
Agreed, and then I guess you're gonna have some explaining to do if your offshore facility inspections number picks up.
Mr. Chairman, as long as we can get that funding to Hawaii.
Yeah, thanks again, Mr. Montoya.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Next up is communications with Chief of Staff. Chief of Staff Corey, you got anything?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I don't have anything new to update you all on. I did want to piggyback on Jason's presentation and just recognize how much, what a pleasure it is to work with the Pipeline Safety Bureau. All of the members of their team are incredible, doing really good work. And quite frankly, it's a gem for the PRC. The PHMSA operator, or excuse me, the inspector, when they come out and do the audit in the spring with Jason and the Pipeline Safety Bureau, I told you last year when I spoke to them that New Mexico's pipeline safety program is really something to be proud of. And so I just wanted to highlight that again after seeing these numbers that Jason and his team put together.
Thank you for that. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Chief of Staff? Thank you. Next up is communications with commissioners. I'll let Commissioner Aguilera take the lead on that one.
Sure. Went to the NARUC conference last week and had good conversations. Did a visit to Capitol Hill to discuss telecom and present some of NARUC's positions with respect to potential legislation. And overall, it was a productive trip, had a lot of good conversations. There was a transmission related resolution that had been proposed by the electricity committee that I was involved in sort of paring down because it gave me some heartburn, but it was nice to be able to work with the other commissioners from across the country to achieve a resolution that I think was in a much better position. I think just in general, it would have, as initially drafted, would have hurt the prospects of building transmission in certain situations where a state might consider their own analysis. And I'm talking about regional transmission projects. State might consider their own analysis to contradict the regional transmission planning operators analysis of the benefits of the project. I think that's about it to report. And I don't have any other updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ellison, did you have anything?
I don't have much other than to say I would be willing to participate in this Washington Action Committee that has the first Wednesday of the month meeting. As it so happens, the NARUC Natural Gas Task Force also meets on the first Wednesday of the month, but it's an hour later. So that fits. And so hopefully we'll learn some interesting information from that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was something that came out of NARUC, I think, from the Hill visit, was recognition that we hadn't plugged into that yet, so got a request from the committee. So great, I'm delighted you can do that. I just have my own version of the update from NARUC. These events are interesting because there's a conference and then there's things that happen because the conference is happening. So example of that, Sunday morning, I attended something called the Power Shift. So that's a collection of academic researchers that write papers. Typically they're law review journal type papers about regulation. So they bring in commissioners just to hear what is going on in your state, and then they focused in on a couple topics like resource adequacy. So anyway, it was a interesting conversation to be involved in. Then the conference, just kind of one of the big topics during the conference was this wildfire liability risk. That's a national concern, and it goes all the way from Florida to Oregon. And so I'm expecting that we're going to see more activity from groups like NARUC, maybe CREPC, WIRAB, to just help commissions understand and be proactive about thinking about that topic. I think the thing that caused it to be so popular was Warren Buffett's annual letter to shareholders. So if you haven't looked at that yet, you might want to. And quite a bit of interaction with the federal government when I was there. One is I checked in with, I'm going to have a meeting Monday that Department of Energy has a person on the ground here, actually works at Los Alamos Labs, who's working to help implement some of the energy community funding that's available in the big infrastructure bills. So I don't know much about that now, just trying to check in and learn what that's about. So start with a call on Monday on that. Then there was also an announcement of a DOE technical assistance program. So, and Lisa Schwartz from LBNL was there to do that. And what that sounds like is DOE is kind of formalizing the kind of relationship you've been benefiting from, Commissioner Ellison, with DOE. So good or bad, that means more bureaucracy. They're gonna have there's a website that they've launched, and we can make applications for technical advisory opportunities. So they've got 3 different levels of help. One is just phone a friend. Another one is expert match, where you'll get they'll hook you up with a researcher from one of their national lab partners. That's Berkeley, Pacific Northwest, and NREL. Also includes NARUC and NASIO. So maybe you'll get teamed up, and that'll give you about, quick response for about 80 hours worth of support. And then if we've got kind of a bigger picture, longer term, in-depth support request, we can submit a detailed application. It's a 9-month work cycle with the labs and DOE. They've got a team of subject matter experts ready to go to help, but that's where, because of the level of commitment they're going to make to helping us, you got to apply. And sounds like, I haven't looked at an application yet, but just highlighting that that's available to us at the commission. So it's some of our questions were, how do we get, and it's not just commissioners going to do this, utility division staff also. So it's a way to plug into National Lab. So I would say let's probably coordinate through chief of staff, so all the agency isn't individually asking them for things, but that way, if we've got some ideas, put in an application and expect help from Department of Energy, which sounded very promising. Also met with GSA Administrator Carnahan. Federal government is a large energy user within New Mexico. That was just kind of a meet and greet thing. But one thing I took away from it is the federal government has its own clean energy goals. So, we see that with large customers like the data centers. But again, expect a little more activity from the federal agencies that are utility customers in New Mexico. I don't know what that's going to lead to, just kind of more interaction there. Then we had our Western Conference of Public Service Commissioner meeting. That's always interesting group. Gotta love the Hawaiians. They bring chocolate with macadamia nuts in it. But so anyway, that was just another instance where the wildfire risk was discussed. So just topic of discussion. And then finally, DOE also has released, is in the process of releasing innovative grid deployment study. So I'm looking forward to sitting with Mr. O'Donnell and making sure he's aware of that. Just that comes out of the DOE loan office was the one leading that conversation. I'm not sure that they're the ones that are writing the report, but from DOE's point of view, there is proven available technology that is not risky because it's in use and proven and can lead to low cost solutions to some of the problems that we're seeing here. So again, looking forward to working with Arthur to make sure we understand that report within the commission. And that's the kind of thing that maybe we'd want to have a presentation at a future open meeting on that. So again, busy conference. Just takeaway is we needed somebody on Washington Action Committee, so that's great, and that expect more to come. And I'd say the next time that commissioners are going to get together to talk about a lot of these exact same things, including what Commissioner Aguilera was talking about, is at the CREPC UIRAP meeting that's in April. And so I expect all 3 of us will be there for that. So.
Yeah, Commissioner Ellison, thank you for taking on the Washington Action Committee. I think that's really important, especially, sort of this resolution that I mentioned earlier really opened my eyes to pay more attention at what NARUC is doing and the positions that they're putting forward, because it's obviously a national organization, and not all states are on the same page about a lot of the issues. We don't have the same laws. And so we really need to make sure that we're paying attention so that whatever NABRUC is putting forward as a policy position reflects the interests of our state. So thank you for doing that.
There's one thing, Mr. Chair, I neglected to mention in terms of some of our rulemaking priorities. I've been giving some thought to the grid modernization rulemaking, and as you know, I'm thinking about what could be some good next steps for that. And I do think that a couple more workshops are likely warranted. One topic that I think is important is the whole topic of cost benefit analyses and guidelines around how to do a cost benefit analysis. And I think we've got a speaker or two that could come in to help out with that. I also think an important topic is how transportation electrification impacts the distribution grid itself, as part of thinking about distribution planning and grid mod. Because obviously when we have a transportation electrification program submitted by a utility, that's often deals with the user side, rebates for charging stations and that sort of thing. But clearly the utility also needs to be sure that its distribution system has adequate capacity to serve the needs going forward. And so how to think about that in the context of distribution planning and grid mod would seem like a useful topic. So if those kind of things make sense, I can try to put together some speakers for a couple of workshops, and we can try to figure out when would be the best place to fit that into our schedule.
No, that sounds like very logical extension of where we're at. Totally makes sense to me. I'm gonna say this for my own accountability, but it's just nagging at me that I haven't done what I think needs to be done to get the rule 1.2.2 launched. So that's the rulemaking that is on my list that I'm focusing on. I also am gonna give you and Commissioner Aguilera a proposal on what we want utilities to present when we do our summer resource adequacy presentation. So I think that presentation is likely going to be in April, just looking at meetings, but hopefully get something in front of the two of you so you can make sure it satisfies what you think should be reported at those meetings. And then we'll send out an invitation to utilities based on that. But to come.
And maybe this is too aggressive a timeline. I was thinking if we could have a grid mod workshop towards the end of March, or, I know the first 2 weeks in April, I think we've got some things going on. March or April, I guess we need to really hone down on that.
Right. Yep, it is March. No, I hear you. I agree. If we don't push it and don't schedule it, it's not gonna get done. Commissioner Aguilera, last words for this meeting?
I would just say that I'm not physically there because I'm getting over something and I don't want to get anybody else sick. So, but that is all. Thank you for a productive meeting.
Great, thank you. So seeing no disagreement, we're adjourned. I was told I'm supposed to use this since we have.